Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning into the Ground and Pound cast. It is me, the world's okayest jiu-jitsu blue belt, Vince, and I am joined with the soothsayer of the MMA world, Nostradamus, and we're going to break down all the action from the event that we watched last night, UFC Fight Night, Mario Bautista versus Oliveira. Not Charles Oliveira, Vinicius Oliveira, no relation.
What a banger this was. Normally, I'm critical whenever fights go to decision time after time after time. We only had 4 finishes between the prelim and the main card tonight, but every fight was so perfectly paired up, I don't care. I will take a card like this any day of the week.
Well, it's good to hear. So I was actually out with family a good bit of yesterday, so I didn't get to tune in until the end of the card. I still haven't had a chance to go back and watch all of these. So overall, you think the excitement factor was pretty good on this one?
Absolutely. There were a couple things that you can't avoid when you have an Almeida card, but outside of really that fight, and even in that fight, if I'm being honest, everyone was paired up. They're really putting a lot of effort into their matchmaking with this Paramount deal.
And so we actually had some pretty fun fights to watch. Not just that they're
we had amazing fights to watch, man.
You know, it's kind of crazy. We had, I think 3 different people missed weight going to this one.
4.
So I'm seeing 3 catch weights on the results here.
Yeah, one got canceled.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, the most egregious weight miss was a full 6 pounds, dude.
It's insane and is also just unacceptable. Like, come on, take your career seriously. What weight class was it?
Let me pull that up real quick. I heard an interesting fact the other day on weight classes. Did you know that 63% of the time the guy who misses weight loses, even though he has the weight advantage?
Interesting.
It was light heavyweight. Uran Satabaldia versus Julius Walker, and Walker got rescheduled.
Okay. Yeah, and there's another one I see missed by 5 pounds over the bantamweight limit. When you're over 5 pounds, and it's actually because they give you a 1 pound buffer unless it's a title fight, so it means technically 6 pounds over the listed weight class, which makes you closer to the weight class above you when you miss that much.
Which is really impressive, considering that Vinicius Oliveira showed a YouTube video at the beginning of his fight camp where he was a full 50 pounds overweight, and he still managed to lose it.
What?
Yeah, 50 friggin' pounds, dude. Dropped down all the way to bantamweight again.
I don't understand these people, like how their weight could go. I struggle. Like if I lose a whopping 5 pounds, I step on a scale and I'm a few pounds down after like months of hard work. I celebrate. These people are like, I'm just gonna go up and down 50 pounds like nothing, because that's what I do. What in the world is going on? What cheat code do they have with their bodies? I just don't understand it. Like, I remember back in the day, weight cuts, we used to think an extreme weight cut was like 10, 15 pounds. And I'm talking like early Zuffa era. People fought close to their natural weight class back then. And now it's like people have kind of developed a science to weight cutting where 10, 15 is nothing. Like, if you're only cutting 10, 15, you're fighting in the wrong weight class. You could easily do 20, 25, 30. How are these people cutting? I understand losing that much weight, but to like cut, I didn't even know your body could cut that much, but that's what people do. You look at someone like Alex Pereira, who people are like, oh, he should fight Tom Aspinall. He should fight heavyweight because he's big enough to be a heavyweight. Once upon a time, the dude's still looking like a heavyweight, fought at 185 pounds.
Yep.
I just don't get it.
No, and it can't be healthy dehydrating yourself to that point just to make weight. It won't be long if this continues, these extreme weight cuts, before we see a death in the octagon. And I'm disappointed in Dana and the UFC organization for not doing more to rein this in now.
Yeah.
You know, the easiest solution to extreme weight cutting is to do the weigh-in an hour before the fight.
Yeah, a lot of people are opposed to that because of it's going to kind of mess what weight classes people are in. It's going to mess with hydration, and because they actually tried doing something like that a while back, and it led to more issues. I think I don't know if that's the right solution, but I think that the way we do it now is not correct either.
It's going to lead to more issues for people who are trying to cheat the system. If you go in and fight at your natural weight, you don't have anything to fear from an hour before the fight.
Right, or at least close to your natural weight. Like if you're like, yeah. So if you're a man who's 195 and you're cutting to 185, that seems pretty normal. Like, I train jiu-jitsu, and we also have weight classes. Now I'm one of the big boys, so I don't like some organizations don't even make me weigh in because I'm in the anything above a certain number, it just goes forever. I could be 500 pounds in the same weight class, which I'm not, for the record. So there's some places that still make you weigh in just for formality, but people that I know that are not in the big boys weight classes that actually do have to make a certain weight, a lot of them, it's like, well, what do I weigh now? Okay, well, I'm just gonna go in, like, so if I'm just gonna throw numbers out here, so I don't have the weight class in front of me, but let's say they're 186 pounds and there's a 190 pound division. They're just going to compete in 190. They don't even worry about it. And then they have some that are going to cut 5 pounds. They're going to look and say, okay, I'm 5 pounds above this weight class, 10 pounds max, and they'll cut because most places make you weigh in day of. Yeah. So like you show up and you weigh in with the gi. So that adds weight as well. If it is, you're competing in gi, that is. So they weigh you in with the gi and you have to make weight with the gi on. And so I have like teammates of mine who compete a whole lot and they're like, okay, well, I need to compete in this weight class. I'm a little bit over, and they'll cut like 5 pounds and they'll do it like the day of. They go put on like some plastic bag looking, like trash bag looking jacket, go hit a bicycle and sweat really hard, where they cut 5 pounds, weigh in, rehydrate, and that's it. And it's nothing too extreme. When I look at these fighters and I see this guy and they say welterweight match 170, I was like, this dude looks as big as me. And he's, I'm exaggerating, not quite as big as me, but like these guys look massive. And I look at middleweights and it looks like I'm watching heavyweights fight in another, combat sport. So anyway, enough rambling about weight cutting. Let's actually talk about the fights here.
All right.
The main event, man, Mario Bautista, is it just me or does he just keep getting better? I know he did lose his last match against Umar Nurmagomedov, but he at least put up a good effort. And in this one, he just dominated this in the stand-up, in the grappling, the scrambles on the ground, the takedowns. His movement was just crisp. Man, just what did you think about this fight overall? What do you think about Mario Bautista's performance?
So you're going to be surprised by this, but
it was a good performance.
Really was. Today, Vinicius came out and said that he went into the fight with a broken arm. And going back to rewatch it this morning, I 100% agree with or believe that he had a broken arm in this fight. He's not. Oliveira was very restrained, wasn't working the jab, didn't work for takedowns. Bautista had his way with him. And I think Bautista versus Oliveira would have been an incredible fight if they were both healthy. But 50-pound weight cut plus broken arm, Bautista didn't look as good as he should have against that kind of adversity.
I guess it's fair. But, just going off of the way he moved and everything, I was pretty impressed with that.
He looked good. It's just, I think that Oliveira looked extremely weak, making Bautista look better.
Gotcha. So it results in a second round rear naked choke finish. He wins by submission. So what do you think is next for these two?
Let's see. So
Mario
Bautista, not pull it up ahead of time.
So Mario Bautista is in the bantamweight division. He is currently ranked. Where is he? He's ranked 9. He beat 11 ranked Vinicius Oliveira. He's ranked below Marlon Vera and below Davison Figueiredo, Zahabi.
This is an easy choice for me, actually. You said bantamweight, and it went off in my head like a bell. Song Yadong. The man's ranked in the top 5. Bautista is shown that he's worthy of a top 5 opponent, and Yadong's coming off of a loss to O'Malley.
Yeah. And from what I'm seeing, they haven't fought already. Because I look at some of the other higher ranked names in the UFC, like Corey Sandhagen, he's already fought and lost to. He's lost to Umar. And yeah, there's a lot of other people in the top of these rankings he hasn't even faced yet. Song Yadong's a good pick.
Yeah, I think Song Yadong is the natural choice, not to mention Song just fought, so they'll have about the same amount of downtime.
Yeah. Or maybe Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, but O'Malley's coming off a victory. Why would you make him fight down in the lower in the division?
I mean, Mario's coming off a win too, so sometimes you have people, two people coming off of wins fighting each other. That is a pretty big gap, to be fair, though, in the rankings. But these rankings have been updated. If Bautista just beat... No, I'm sorry. He fought someone that's below him, so he might not move up. Maybe he will. Sometimes they do that. If you have someone above you that's like inactive or something, they might move you up even though you beat someone below you. We'll see. I don't know how the rankings are going to look because they haven't updated them just yet.
Yeah.
All right. And this next fight, I really enjoyed this next fight. You have Kyoji Horiguchi versus Amir Albazi.
Yep. These guys, it's incredible how fast Horiguchi is. His punches don't have a lot of power behind them, but it's like getting hit with a foam bat over and over and over and over again, and you can't do anything about how fast he is and how much he moves.
Yeah, this guy's nickname is the Karate Kid, and I think he's more of a legitimate Karate Kid than what we know as the Karate Kid from movies. This guy is from Japan and is a high-level karate practitioner, second-degree black belt in Shotokan. And it was really on full display in this fight. He was doing what a lot of people call point-style karate, where you move in, you hit, and you move out. And being that these were flyweights, and we always rave on how fun it is to watch flyweight fights because of how fast they are, when you have a guy who has this style of karate in a flyweight match, it was like watching an anime fight. He was just in and out, just pop, pop, pop. And to Albazi's credit, he didn't look bad either. It's just Horiguchi really controlled this.
Well, I gave Albazi round 1 because despite he got hit more, the only significant strike of the round went to him, and it took Horiguchi completely off of his feet.
Yeah, there's still like a over 2-1. It was almost like a 3-1 striking differential, though. And
yeah.
And Albazi has a stronger grappling base, and he was trying to get Horiguchi down to the ground and just couldn't do it.
Yeah, Albazi figured out his wrestling in round 2 and 3, but just couldn't keep a hold of Horiguchi. He'd get him against the fence. Horiguchi would reverse it, pull it back to the middle of the cage.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how good Horiguchi, even though he's a karate guy, how good his anti-grappling is. We've talked about this before, where you have to have good takedown defense, good anti-grappling. It's clear that Horiguchi is not a grappler first. In fact, let me see if he even has.
Horiguchi didn't start grappling till his loss to Mighty Mouse in 2015, which just happens to be his last loss.
Wow, that's actually really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, as we've said before, if you're a striker first, if you're predominantly a striker, you need to have good anti-grappling, and I think we got to see exactly what we're talking about in this match, because Albazi would shoot, and he would get Horiguchi up against the cage and start trying to, grab his legs to try to pull him down, and Horiguchi was able to posture up. He was able to fight for an underhook. He's able to turn the way he needs to stop the takedown, and there's a few times where he was kind of stuck there for a minute, not like a full minute, not 60 seconds, but he was up against the cage for like 30 seconds or so. I wasn't exactly timing it, but you can see he knows if he makes the wrong move, the wrong step, he's going to get taken down, and that's bad. So he was very patient, and he just kept establishing his underhooks, his positioning, and everything he needed to do. And then he was able to get control of the clinching, then he was able to spin out, get back to the center of the cage, and go back to striking. And that's basically how the entire fight played out. And so he was able to get the win by doing just that. It was really fun to see. It was really impressive. And that's exactly what we're talking about when we mention anti-grappling. That is what anti-grappling is. It was on full display in this match.
Yeah. I always say don't leave it in the judge's hands, but if you're going to, hitting the guy 4 times as many times as he hits you is definitely the way to go.
Absolutely.
So what do you think's next for you, for Hormiguchi?
Man, I was just looking at the rankings here, and let me pull them back up because I was actually planning what to say here before we went live here.
Well, while you're pulling it up, I'm going to throw my pick out as Brendan Moreno.
So he fought and beat Albazi, who was ranked number 6. Horiguchi was ranked number 8. So I'm going to assume he's going to move up to 6, if not higher. Because, again, sometimes they do that. Just because you beat someone doesn't mean you take their spot. Sometimes, if someone's inactive, whatever, they'll knock you down. But, yeah, Brandon Moreno's a good pick. I think he's booked for something. He did just lose. Moreno just lost. Royval just lost. Tatsuro Taira would be really fun to watch. And let me double check and see if he's already fought some of these guys. He has not. Actually, I didn't realize this. It hasn't. So he actually had a UFC run many years ago. Then he left and went to Ryzen and Bellator and back to Ryzen. He just came back to the UFC last year. Interesting. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that he hasn't fought that are in the top of the rankings. He's fought Manel Kopp, and he lost to him. I'm sorry, he beat Manel Kopp. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about how good he is. Let's see, he's fought and beat Kai Asakura. Actually, he looks like he's 1-1 against him. Yeah, so there's a lot of people here in the top of the rankings he hasn't fought yet. He could have a rematch with Kopp. Kopp's much higher ranked, but he does have a win against him. But I think we know that Kopp's going to be facing Van soon. So Tatsuro Taira, Royval, Moreno, I think those all 3, they're ranked 3, 4, and 5 currently. I think any of those would be good for him because off of this performance and with where he's already ranked and he just beat number 6, it only makes sense to put him against a number 5. And considering that Kopp is most likely going to be fighting Van, the champion, and Pantoja's out on injury, I think it's got to be one of those 3 guys. It has to be Taira, Royval, or Moreno. Any of those I think would be good.
Yeah, I don't know. With a division of killers like this, jumping him more than a couple spots for his next matchup doesn't make much sense to me. But, getting him in the top 5 is definitely a priority.
Well, if he just beat number 6, he will be at 6. So him fighting 3, 4, 5, I think makes sense. So
yeah, but you got Pantoja, Van, Kopp, Royval, Tierra, then Moreno. I mean, that's a murderer's row.
It really is. I still think any of those 3 fights would be pretty good. I think we've mentioned Taira before and the rise he's having. I think Taira is probably in the mix for title, so let's remove him. I think Royval and Moreno would be good picks. They're both coming off of losses. So I think either one of those would be really good. I think with how they fight, I think Royval would probably be a more fun fight. Even though the Moreno fight would still be really fun. Don't get me wrong. But I think Royval is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC, so that would be really fun to watch. Yeah. So one of those guys. Moreno's a good pick. I think Royval's a good pick. I think Taira would be a good pick, but I think right now he is in the title mix, and I think he shouldn't fight down at the moment.
Yeah.
Just my take on it. Unless the only way that would make sense for Taira to fight down is if he has a rematch with Brandon Royval because he lost to Royval, but he's ranked above him. That would be the only way that makes sense for him to fight down. But beyond that, I don't think he needs to be fighting down. So,
that's the downside about having official rankings is you do end up having to worry about fighting up versus fighting down instead of what's going to be the best fight. But if there's any indicator from these first 3 cards of the Paramount era, they're definitely making adjustments to their matchmaking and giving us better fights.
Yeah. So, yeah, looking at flyweight, assuming that Horiguchi is going to move up to 6, maybe we could do Moreno and Horiguchi, and then Tyra versus Royval rematch, and then Kopp and Van. I think those would be the fights to make in flyweight in the upcoming months. Those fights to me make sense.
Yeah, I doubt that with the way Van got the belt that he's going to fight anyone before a rematch with Pantoja.
Yeah. Well, Pantoja is going to be out on injury for a while, so I think he's going to fight Manel Kopp.
Speaking of out on injury, I just got to throw this out there. They gave an update on Tom Aspinall, and I guess this should go to the next fight where we're talking heavyweight. But Aspinall is looking at 8 months out for another eye surgery this month.
Goodness.
And this one doesn't look like it's just injections, like Dana said.
I still can't believe you said that.
No, absolutely disrespectful.
We are not Dana White fanboys on the Ground and Pound cast. If he says something we agree with or he makes a good decision, we'll give him credit, but we're not an avid follower of everything he says. And we have strongly disagreed with his stance on a handful of things in regards to the heavyweight division and certain fighters and whatnot.
UFC, enforcement of the rules.
Yeah, I mean that's a much deeper rabbit hole to go down. But in regards to his
we'll
comments,
do that on a week where we don't have a card to talk about.
Yeah, I mean next week we have a card. I'm sorry, we don't have a card next week, but we have a card the following weekend. So maybe we could use that as something to talk about.
Dana White hater episode.
Dana White hater episode. All the dumb things he said, and then we'll do a preview for the next fight. So speaking of heavyweights, you had Jalton Almeida, who was ranked. Let me pull it up. I have the website. Let me just find him here. Who was ranked number 6, fighting unranked Rizvan Kuniev. See, I actually was trying to tune in to see this fight. I got home kind of late, and then I was doing family stuff, and I haven't had a chance to go back and watch these. So I tuned in right as they were announcing who won this one. But I didn't actually get to see it. I'm going to go back and watch these later. So I'm just going to ask you, Roy, number 6 ranked, Jalton Almeida, a phenom who came into the UFC undefeated or close to undefeated with a high finish rate. I was really excited to see him in action. But then he's kind of given us very low effort performances since then. And now he's fighting someone who's unranked. How did this fight play out?
All right. Well, how do I say this delicately?
You don't need
Almeida
to be delicate.
has lost all motivation to even make an effort. In round 1, Almeida went for 2 takedowns and threw 1 punch. He missed the punch. He didn't get either takedown. And they went back, and he held Kanaev against the cage for 3 minutes. Kanaev reversed the position on the cage. About 20 seconds after the position reversed, the ref broke them up for the first time in the fight. So immediately after that, Almeida tries to push Kanaev back against the cage. Kanaev reverses it, and the ref breaks it up again. End of round. Round 1, Kanaev, because he actually landed a couple hits. Round 2, we come out. It ends up against the cage again. Almeida isn't even trying to get his legs under him. He's literally standing straight-legged against the cage, not throwing punches, while Kanaev tries to dirty box without throwing punches. Some knees came out. The ref breaks them up 2 times in this round. Both times while Kanaev has control against the cage. Round 3, they come out there, and Almeida is actually trying to throw punches, but hitting nothing but air. Kanaev pushes him against the cage. The ref breaks it up. At the last 15 seconds of the fight, like he's some Max Holloway clone, Almeida decides to point at the ground and they don't throw. This was the worst fight of the card. Almeida needs to be cut, and Kanaev doesn't deserve a rank to be ranked even now.
That is wild to me.
The ref broke this fight up and reset it 5 separate times for lack of activity. That's unacceptable.
And, it blows my mind that we've clowned on Jailton Almeida since this podcast has started because of how boring of a wrestler he is. I mean, technically he's a jiu-jitsu guy, but he does his grappling more wrestling style. Now, this is what's really weird, because as I mentioned when we started going into this fight that he had a high finish rate coming into the UFC. I don't understand if, like, someone made a clone of Jailton Almeida with someone who has a completely different fighting style and replaced him when he entered the UFC, because this does not make any sense to me. Jailton Almeida, coming into the UFC, he was 13-2 coming into the Dana White's Contender Series, so 14-2 coming into actual UFC. 14 wins, 2 losses, and every single one of his wins was by a finish. Did you know that, Roy? Coming into UFC,
I had no idea.
Coming into UFC, he had a 100% finish rate, mostly submissions, a few knockouts. So I remember whenever he was making his, I don't know if it was his debut or maybe his second fight, one of his first fights in UFC, I saw he had a 100% finish rate, and I was really excited to see this guy in action. And then since then, he has racked up 3 losses, and a lot of his wins have been by decision. Just really boring. And even when he does get a finish, it's a very boring lead up to the finish. I don't know what happens with these guys. Like, I don't know if it's they're just fighting competition that's so, like, unskilled that it's easy to finish them, and then they come to the UFC and they just fall off because they're facing good competition. I think of, like, guys like Patchy Mix, who had, like, one of the best records coming into the UFC from Bellator, and then he loses, like, 3 in a row and gets cut. I just don't understand how you go 15-2 with a 100% finish rate to this, what we're seeing right now. I just don't get how you go from this to that.
Yeah, and to make it worse, to copy Taylor Swift, Jailton Almeida has a reputation now. In the first minute of the fight, the announcers called him out for not doing much.
I don't get the Taylor Swift reference. But,
Reputation album.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't listen to Taylor Swift.
Wow, you and pop culture just don't get along, man. I thought you had a daughter.
I don't listen to Taylor Swift. She listens to Taylor Swift. I don't listen to everything she listens to.
Taylor Swift is amazing, especially when you get on YouTube and find metal covers of her songs.
I'd rather just listen to actual metal, like Slayer.
You got to get
Corpse.
some good lyrics in your life, man.
That is good lyrics. Come on. Raining Blood? That's beautiful lyrics, man.
All right. Well, you didn't get to see Oleksiejczuk versus Baralt, did you?
I didn't get to see any of these other ones. I want to go back and watch them. I just haven't had a chance. I was out with family. I'm going to go back and watch these at some point. I just haven't had a chance to yet.
This one you need to see. This was absolutely mind-blowing. These guys are both such technical fighters. It almost got boring to watch at a point because every time one moved, the other had the perfect answer for it, and you could predict how the fight was going to go because they were both so technically sound.
So was it a really exciting fight?
Yes, they were both active. It was like watching 2 giant Max Holloways fight.
Even though they're middleweights?
Yes. They're still bigger than Max.
So, Oleksiejczuk, these Polish names, man, beats Marc-Andre Barriault by unanimous decision. All 3 judges had it 29-28. Is that how you had it played out?
That's how I had it played out, too. Oleksiejczuk got round 1 and, let's see, 1 and 3, and round 2 I gave to Barriault.
Okay.
Round 2, Barriault came out there with pure aggression and really kept Oleksiejczuk on the back leg. which was a huge change of pace because the whole first round, it was the opposite way around. But Olajaychek was better on his back leg than Baralt was on his back leg. And these guys, the first round, Olajaychek kept Baralt on the back. Second round, they came out to the middle of the octagon, and neither one would back down. They just kept circling and punching.
Is there anything else you want to talk about this fight, or jump into the next one?
No, it's just a phenomenal fight. You're going to love the heck out of it. Round 3, they came out there toe to toe and just left it all in the octagon.
Nice. That's what we want to see.
Yes.
What do you think are next for these fighters? I don't know if they're ranked. I don't think they are.
Let's see. Olajaychek, after this performance, obviously deserves Hamzat.
Yes, jump all the way from unranked to the champion.
Yeah, but he has 3 wins against unranked opponents. That counts for something if it's heavyweight.
Was Barrialt ranked? I don't think so.
No, Barrialt wasn't ranked. My pick for Olajaychek is actually Roman Dolidze. I think that would make for an exciting fight.
Dolidze?
And it's going to mix up the skill set a little bit more and really show what Olajaychek can do.
You mean Roman Dolidze? Remember, I'm the one who's supposed to mispronounce names here.
I blame this one on autocorrect. I'm gonna blame autocorrect for this.
Dolidze. But I'll say Dolidze for now on.
Yes, Mr. Dolidze.
Dolidze. All right, and so the main event was a bantamweight fight. This is not the only bantamweight fight of the night. We also had Farid Basharat against Jean Matsumoto, or it might be Jean. This was a split decision from what I'm seeing, 29-28 and 28-29 in favor of Basharat. So how did this fight play out?
So the first round was not very exciting. It was like watching full body chess. Another 2 very technical strikers. And anytime that one of them did anything risky or not perfectly technical, they missed. So they stuck to it and stuck to the game plan. Round 1, I gave to Basharat mostly because Matsumoto has thin skin and actually bled. But they were about even on strikes. The second one, Basharat found his range and timing, and Matsumoto was reduced to grappling to get away from the strikes. They kept good, but and then Basharat eventually started to get the back of Matsumoto, but he couldn't get position on his back and kept getting dumped off. This round went to Basharat because he did dictate most of the round. Third round goes to Basharat, and it was just a repeat of the second round. Thing about Basharat, you know that his brother fought on this card too, right?
I see a Havid Basharat on the undercard. He's one of the people who missed weight, it looks like. Or I don't know if he missed weight, but that was a catch weight. So I think one of them, either him or his opponent, missed weight. But he won also.
Yep. Actually, the Bash brothers are undefeated when they both fight on the same card for their whole careers.
Ah, that's really interesting.
And Farid is undefeated in general still.
So Basharat did not miss weight. I see right here his opponent missed weight.
Yep.
Well, that's very good to know. It's very interesting. So you had so what was the breakdown again? You had Matsumoto winning round 1 and Basharat winning 2 and 3.
Yep. Basharat, once he found his range, was able to keep at it, and he was able to out or anti-grapple Matsumoto more than out-grapple him.
So since it was a split decision, that means one of the rounds must have been really close. Which one do you think it was? I could actually pull up the cards.
All of them. But
all of them are that close? Okay.
I would say that round 1 is where the rift would take place. Like I said, I gave Basharat round 1 because Matsumoto was the one with more obvious damage. It wasn't about who did more, because they were damn near even all the way through it. These guys were so perfectly paired.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to pull up the scorecards now to actually see which one was the split. So that was this fight here. So Mike Bell gave it to Basharat, and D'Amato gave it to Basharat, and then it was Ron McCarthy gave it to Matsumoto, and he had it. Let me see here. I'm looking at the scores. He gave Basharat round 1, and then Matsumoto rounds 2 and 3.
That's a surprise.
That's what I'm seeing here.
They were all 3 close, though. If the only way I see that he did that is if he's counting control time more heavily than strikes.
Yeah, and then the other 2 judges both had it. Rounds 1 and 2 went to Basharat, and round 3 went to Matsumoto. This is what they had it scored.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and then we have one more fight on the main card. Fight nights have 6.
This fight unlocked a new fear for me.
Dustin Jacoby and Julius Walker. I've seen Jacoby fight a good handful of times. He's been in the UFC for a long time, if I'm not mistaken.
Jacoby
2020
had in this fight the most vicious elbows to Walker's ear. I like new fear unlocked. I never want to be elbowed in the ear.
I've been hit in the ear. It is not fun.
No, and especially the point of that elbow, he hit him in the second round like 4 or 5 times, just whack, perfect on the point. But this was a clean fight. They both came out ready to go to war. Jacoby better on striking. Walker just kept dumping him. Every chance he got, he picked him up and dumped him on the mat, but he couldn't keep him down.
So Jacoby was able to scramble and keep getting back up?
Yep.
More of that anti-grappling.
Yeah, this was a big card for the anti-grappling.
It's really good. Jacoby has 50 wins by knockout, 1 by submission, so it doesn't look like he is a strong grappler in general. It says the style's kickboxing. He also has a kickboxing record, 10-8. Not the greatest kickboxing record, but still, he is a kickboxer first. So, yeah, not a grappling heavy fighter here. He just knows how to scramble, get back up when he needs to.
Yep. And, with this win, we got to start talking about putting him in the ranking conversation.
Yeah, so he's another unranked fighter. Most of the fights on this card are unranked because it is a fight night. You're going to have some that are ranked, like the mains and co-mains, and even the feature fight had one person who's ranked, one that wasn't. A lot of these fights, because they are fight night fighters, they're going to be unranked, but it's really good to see these fights because you get to see who is probably going to be busting their way into the rankings. So Dustin Jacoby, let me pull up his recent activity. He is on a 3-fight win streak. He did have a good string of losses before that. He went 1-4 in his previous 5, but he's currently on a 3-fight win streak, and he just fought someone else who's unranked, so he should probably be fighting someone who's in the bottom of the rankings at light heavyweight.
Yeah, I'm thinking Rob Font.
Rob Font? I thought this was light heavyweight.
Oh, wait, hold on. I thought, I'm completely on the wrong page of my notes.
Yeah, Rob Font is what?
Bantamweight.
He's bantamweight, yeah. So,
yeah, I was still on the last fight's notes.
Well, we did talk about very extreme weight cuts. Maybe he's going to cut like 50 pounds.
Just another 50 on top of the 30 already.
Yeah, just cut a full human being worth of body weight for a fight. This is the largest bantamweight we've ever seen. How does he do this? It's black magic.
But yeah, actually, the light heavyweight division, when you get into just starting to to break into the rankings is still a daunting challenge. You've got Walker ranked 12, Johnny Walker. If he's only ranked 12, that's pretty impressive not to be higher with what he's been doing.
Yeah, and then Zhang Mingyang, who, did lose to Johnny Walker, but if you watch his wins, he looks very scary. Whenever Zhang Mingyang gets off with his strikes, like, he hits so hard. Yeah. I think that would probably be a good fight there. Mingyang is coming off of a loss. I don't think he's fought since he fought Johnny Walker. So if that is true, he's coming off of a loss.
That's the matchup that I'd be looking to make.
Yeah, it makes sense. That'd be a fun fight.
Yep.
He's already lost to Dominic Reyes and Menfield. Menfield is actually ranked number 15. He lost to Menfield already. So, yeah, maybe rematch against Menfield or Zhang Mingyang. I think those make sense.
Yeah, he looked good, and he showed his toughness getting dumped over and over again and still managing to get back up and keep going.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we've got some MMA news that I want to cover if you're cool with it.
Well, before we get into that, do we have anything we want to talk about on the prelims? Did you have any notes on prelim fights?
The only notable thing that happened on the prelim is where did I write this down?
You did mention Basharat and Basharat. When they're on the same card together, they both win. So I see that here. I didn't know.
I did not watch that fight. The prelim where I came in. Let's see. Here it is. Martin Gufarov versus Jakub Willox. The notable thing about this
which fight? I'm not seeing this one.
Bantamweight Gufarov versus Willox. It's the one that ended in submission in round 3 at 4:59.
I'm not seeing that. I see it here. I see it. It's at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, the notable thing about this is that this fight had gone the whole round. Willox did not have the submission locked in. Gufarov started tapping at the start of the bell just to get him to let go, and they ruled that he tapped before the bell.
Well, if you tapped, you tapped.
I agree, but I would call this within tenths of a second whether it was a tap or not.
If I see you tapping at the end of the fight, I'm going to think the other guy won.
Yeah, but Gufarov was surprised that they called it a tap.
Interesting. Now, do you think it would have gone to Gufarov in decision had he not tapped?
No.
So it didn't matter?
It didn't matter. Willox was winning this one. I don't even know if I'm saying Willox right.
Who knows? It sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds
it's
good
an
to me,
undercard.
Man.
We'll learn their names whenever they get to the big show.
Right. It looks like another Polish name. I'm willing to bet it is. Let me look it up real quick just to confirm.
Yeah, Jacob Willox.
Copy paste. Tapology fighting out of Poland. Yep. Why are the Polish fighters? Why do Polish people have the weirdest names to pronounce?
They just like to put different consonants together and see who gets messed up by it.
Yeah. All right, so you have some MMA news to talk about.
Yes. Top and first and foremost, Big John McCarthy is back as a referee. He reffed at the PFL last night, and what I've seen says that he will be back in the octagon for the UFC. Bringing back the basically the guy who started reffing for the UFC is a huge step towards fixing some of the inherent problems that are going on in the organization right now, like the eye poke situation.
Yeah, he's definitely an OG, and I love whenever he has to like step in and gets serious about enforcing things. Like, he doesn't play around. I think he's definitely one of the best refs ever. And part of me wonders if that's rose tinted glasses, because I'm thinking of the old days. You know, he's the OG, he's the original. But really, if you just look through history, he is just a really good ref. He's a solid ref.
Well, he helped to design the unified rules.
Correct.
He knows them better than anybody else.
Right. Now, there's
Except
been a
Herb Dean, but Herb Dean has a let 'em die mentality recently.
Yeah. But you know, there's been a lot of times where the rules have evolved, but like when it was first being laid out in place, you know, he helped design that. He's one of the key people behind that. Because whenever UFC first started, UFC 1, they always said no rules. That was not technically true. There were some rules, but it was very, very limited. Like no eye gouging, no biting, no punches to the throat. That might have been it. I think that was it, if I'm not mistaken.
You also couldn't oil check.
I'm not even sure about that one. I can't confirm that, but groin shots were legal.
Yep.
Hair pulling was legal. You remember that fight with Kimo Leopoldo and Royce Gracie, where Royce Gracie was like trying to get him down. He couldn't. He grabbed him by the back of his ponytail and was like dragging him down.
Royce Gracie was a dirty fighter, man. There was a fight where Royce literally reached in another guy's shorts, grabbed and twisted.
Well, I mean, they were all dirty fighters back then because it wasn't a sport. It was a fight. So, you know, you did what you had to do. I remember the one fight, that kickboxer, was it Gerard Gordeau, I think, where the dude was like doing some dirty moves to Royce Gracie, although they're not technically illegal. They were still dirty. So whenever he sunk in the rear naked choke, he didn't let go until the ref pulled him off of him. It was a very dirty time in the early days of UFC. But going back to John McCarthy, like he helped turn this from a blood sport to a sport, you know. And I hate to throw around that term, you know. I'm not trying to trash on MMA, but if you look back historically, the reason why people wanted to shut it down, the reason why senators trying to get it shut down, so it wasn't really a sport. It was a martial arts tournament that was very unorganized. And if people would have kept fighting like that, we would just seen, you know, career-ending injuries every single event. So they had to put in some type of rules to make it, I guess, a little bit safer for longevity's sake. So they barred a lot of stuff from boxing and carried that over. You know, they didn't have rounds and points and stuff back then. It was like you keep going until you get a finish. So John McCarthy helped establish all that. So it's really good to hear that he's getting back in the mix because he is so integral to the history. He's not just a ref from the early days. He's done a lot more for the sport behind the scenes that a lot of people might not know about.
And he's continued to do it since resigning as a ref temporarily. He's stayed involved in the organization and the development of the rules. So it's going to be a huge thing for Big John to come back. And we're not on a bad start for that because this is the second UFC event in a row with no eye pokes. I'm keeping track of it. If we can make it 10 for 10, I'll say that the problem is resolved.
More or less.
Well, at some point, they're going to have to make the rules more stiff about eye pokes. Otherwise, it's going to keep happening.
All right, you got any more MMA news to talk about?
Nope, those were the two big stories of the week.
All right, so this is what I'm going to do for funsies to make this episode end really funny. I'm going to look through these prelim fights, and I'm going to tell you who beat who. Fighter A defeated Fighter B by this method, and I'm not going to take my time to try to properly pronounce these names. I'm looking at the names. I'm going to read them with just whatever my heart says in the moment. I'm just going to go through them really fast, and we're going to laugh at how terribly I butchered these names because it's just fun, and it's funny. Ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Danil Doncheko defeats Alex Morano by decision. Nikolay Veretekhinov defeated Nico Price by knockout. Ketlin Souza defeated Bruna Brazil by decision. Javid Basharat defeated Gianni Vasquez by decision. Wang Kong defeated Edgardo Mora by decision.
That's King Kong's cousin.
Jakub Wiklas defeated Muin Gufarov by submission. And Claudia Sigula defeated Priscilla Kohera by decision. I don't think I got a single name right there, except Nico Price, because I know that one.
I'm pretty sure you got Kellen Souza right too, and Javid Basharat,
Yeah, maybe.
and you definitely got Wang Kong.
Maybe. It might be Wong Kong. I don't know.
The Wong Kong Fury.
Oh, you're making reference to Kung Fu Fury?
Of course.
We watched that together in theaters when it first came out. Opening weekend.
Didn't we also go to Kung Pao Enter the Fist together?
No, I think you and Dustin did.
Okay. That's a name from the past, but not the right place to reminisce.
Oh, little fun story here. Dustin is who got me into the UFC.
Really?
Yes, because I'd never heard of this stuff called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he's like, have you heard about this thing called the Ultimate Fighting Championship? There's this guy called Royce Gracie. Yes, he said it with the R. And he's like this little guy, but he beats these big guys because he like grapples them and he chokes them out. So you have these big boxers and kickboxers, and he doesn't care. He just drags them down and chokes them out. It's really cool to see. It's stuff called UFC. You can only watch it on VHS tapes. I was like, whoa, that sounds crazy. I'm a big boxing fan. So like, when it comes to combat sports, boxing, Mike Tyson, that's my jam. But hearing about some little guy choking people out, that's really interesting. And that's how I first heard of the UFC.
Huh.
Yep.
I was in college when I first heard about the UFC.
Really?
There was a guy I was hanging out with named John who was an amateur fighter. And he introduced me. The first fight I ever watched was Royce Gracie versus Ken Shamrock.
I was either like junior high or high school. It had already been out a handful of years by the time I'd heard about it, but it was still in the early days.
Well, so the audience knows, you and I are the same age. We actually went to school together.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear Dustin was into it because he never told me about it ever.
I don't think he really got into it. I think he heard about it and it was cool. It was like a fad that he was briefly into, and he talked about it and VHS tapes. And I can't remember who it was. Someone had some tapes of it, and I watched some of it, and I was like, this stuff's wild. And then I don't think he kept with it, and I kind of went off and on with it. And I followed it when I got into the military. I used to like rent DVDs and stuff like that back when you could still do that. And so I got really into the UFC because I'd still watched it in the early days. I'm talking like single digit, like UFC 4, 5, 6, But I didn't get like really into it until like the early Zuffa days. I'm talking like when Tito Ortiz was champion. And so that's when I started following it the best I could. I was in the military, so I was out and about traveling throughout the world. But when I could, I would go watch DVDs of it or stream it on the internet wherever I could. And when I got out of the Army, that's when I got like really into it. And that's like GSP era and Anderson Silva. And it's been something I followed pretty consistently since then. I went through a period of time, there's a few years where I'd stop watching because like all of my favorite fighters, all the really good fighters, like the golden era fighters, like BJ Penn and GSP and Anderson Silva, those guys were starting to lose. And well, GSP didn't lose, but they're starting to lose and retiring. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of big star power that was filling in that gap. So I kind of went a handful of years where I didn't care as much and I stopped watching. And then there was like a resurgence in the excitement. Then I got back into it. But yeah, that's kind of my full fandom history in a nutshell. But I've been watching it for the most part pretty consistently since the early Zuffa days.
Yeah, my story is a little different. I got really, really into it when I was in college. Like weekly, we were getting pay-per-views and watching every fight. And then when I moved to Colorado, I wasn't around anybody who was into it. So I really missed a lot of Khabib and Conor McGregor's run during that time. And towards the end of my time in Colorado, before moving back to Louisiana, I started to get back into it again because we were getting fight nights without the pay-per-view charges.
Yeah. I remember when I was in the National Guard, I was active duty Army for a while, and then I switched over to the National Guard, and I ended up making some friends out there who watch UFCs, and it was kind of a very good coincidental timing that most of the time when we had our weekend drill, it happened to fall on a UFC pay-per-view weekend. So I would link up with those guys and we would watch. And I remember one funny story. We were in our, because you ever hear about in the National Guard, they talk about 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. So the 2 weeks is you go in and you train, you're there for 2 weeks straight instead of just going in on the weekends. And when we're on my very first, if I remember correctly, my very first 2 week rotation was when UFC 100 happened. It's where Brock Lesnar fought Frank Mir in the rematch, GSP versus Thiago Alves. That's when Dan Henderson knocked out Michael Bisping. It's one of the most iconic cards of all time. Happened to be whenever I was in the field in Camp Beauregard, Louisiana. And a lot of people in the Army, in the National Guard, at least my unit, are really into UFC. And that was a huge pay-per-view that we didn't want to miss. We had, I think, 2, if not 3 title fights and just a lot of other really good fights. So we ended up getting a laptop with an extension cord to make it out of the barracks room that we're in. Then someone used what's called an air card. It's basically like a satellite signal to give yourself a very weak internet signal. And a lot of people in the military use that, and police force use that for communication where internet's needed. When you don't have an internet signal, that becomes your internet signal. So we hooked up an air card to a laptop, and I pulled out my credit card, went to the UFC website back. That's how you order pay-per-views back then. Went to the UFC website, and I paid $50. $50 was the price back then. And we all were standing. There's like 12 of us in a semicircle standing around this tiny laptop sitting on the ground with a air card satellite internet signal watching UFC 100. And that's how I watch UFC 100. And there was obviously a huge delay in the signal because one of my buddies got a message from his wife saying, "Oh my God, wasn't that knockout crazy?" And he receives a text message. This was during Michael Bisping versus Dan Henderson. He receives a text message. He pulls it out. He looks at it. And he reads it out loud. He goes, "And my wife just texted me. Oh my God, wasn't that knockout crazy?" What knockout? As soon as he says what knockout, that's when we see Dan Henderson land the H-bomb on Michael Bisping's jaw.
Wow.
True story. I'm not making that up.
That's awesome. Yeah. The biggest fight that I watched was John Jones versus, how am I blanking on this? Who was it that he got disqualified for the 10-12 or the 12-6 elbow?
Hamill? Mark Hamill?
Yes.
Matt Hamill. Not Mark Hamill.
God,
Mark Hamill's the Jedi. Matt Hamill.
That card, we had over 30 people packed into my buddy Leon's tiny apartment to watch. We were climbing all over each other and went nuts.
Yeah. My buddy that received that text message about the what KO, that's actually the same guy that I went and watched UFC 318. There's a 319. I can't even remember now. The one in New Orleans. He's the guy that I went and watched those fights with many years later. Little fun side story. Shout out to my boy Nicholas. Yeah, that was UFC 318.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, that's all that we have for this episode. Got anything else you want to say?
Nope, that was it. Thanks for tuning into the Ground and Pound cast, and come back and listen to us next week.
Yeah, we'll be not breaking down the reviews, but giving our thoughts of the upcoming card, UFC Fight Night, Sean Strickland versus Fluffy Hernandez. Man, we got to make sure we get Rick on this episode because he has been talking about Fluffy Hernandez since before the podcast started. He's like, man, you got to watch this guy. He's all about this dude. Fighting former middleweight champion Sean Strickland in a fight that is probably going to have, title implications. So I think that's going to be a pretty good card. So that is going to be 2 weeks from now. So next week, we're going to be giving our thoughts, our preview, our predictions, and all that fun stuff. And we'll think of some other stuff to talk about, too, to make it fun. Maybe we could do a Dana White hater episode or something. All right, I guess that's it. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week on the Ground and Pound cast.